Welcome to episode 27 of the Goldenberg Destiny Project. In the previous episode, we spoke about the purpose of a Jewish king. The purpose of a Jewish king is not to be the political, executive, and administrator of a government. The purpose of a Jewish king is to be a spiritual leader who will bring the people to the highest level. And during the period of the judges, the Jewish people were attempting something which was extremely idealistic and very high. They were attempting to create a society which could function with stability without a government. It should just be self-governed, governed by the Torah. By the Torah, and have a judicial system to adjudicate disputes, or to answer questions. What do you do here? What do you do there? But the government, the Torah would govern the Jewish people. And this was cyclical. Sometimes it went through, like a long period was great, and then it descended into chaos, and then again and again, and I'm not going to review everything that we spoke about in the previous episode, but in the end, and we did not have a king during this period, because if a king had come in before a governmentless society could be established and stabilized, then the king would have to be involved with the government, and that would it would sully him. He would not be able to be so totally focused on Torah and Avodah and elevating the people. So therefore, it took 400 years. And at the end of 400 years, the people threw up their hands in defeat, and they said, we're having too much trouble from our enemies on all sides, and we need a king. And Shmuel was upset, but God told him, give them a king. So this was a failure. But we're going to the kings now. So now we start the period of the kings. But in the beginning, the first king that was appointed, that was anointed, was Shaul. Now there's a question. Why Shaul? Why Shaul? Shaul was a very great person. He was considered like Shichmai L'Malik, head and shoulders above everybody else in this generation. He was pious and kind and learned and very humble. He was a very great person. But he was from the Shevet of Binyamin. And we know, we've discussed this a number of times, that the ultimate king, the destined king of the Jewish people, was supposed to come from the Shevet of Yehuda. So why was Shaul appointed king? So to explain this is because even though the idealistic attempt of the period of the judges to prepare a society for the king which would not need him to be involved, here was another attempt to lay the ground to bring in a Jewish king. By Jewish king, I mean the Jewish conception of what a king should be, that he should be an exalted spiritual leader. So it's true, it didn't work to have a society which is anarchy, not chaos, anarchy, a society without a government. That didn't work. Fine, so we need a government. So now we're going to try something new. We're going to put in a government, but the government will have its own king. There will be a king who will run the government, and when the country is stabilized and everything is good and it's solid, then we will bring in the other king. Then we will bring in the king of Yehuda. So there would be like a two-layered kingship. There would be the lower king, which would be the king who runs the government, the political king we'll call him. And then, after that, there would be above him, there would be the spiritual king who would be the ultimate king over everything. But his focus, what he would be busy with, would not be with the government. That would be with the political king. So God told Shmuel to appoint Shaul. Now you see in the words, there are two words in Hebrew for a king. One of them is melech, and one of them is nagid. The difference between the two is that nagid means a ruler. It means nagid is related to the word neged. Neged means against. That means when you're ruling somebody, there's a certain adversarial relationship where you are the ruled and I'm the ruler, and you have to impose my will on you. So that's neged. Neged is nagid. Melech has a higher meaning. Melech is related to the word nimlach, which means to ask advice. It's an advisor. So Melech is higher. He's an advisor. That's the essential word of Melech and the essential word of Nagid. But they are used interchangeably, but when you get down to what they want to define it very tightly, that's a Melech, that's a Nagid. So you find that when God told Shmuel to appoint Shaul, he told him to appoint him Nagid al Yisrael. He is the ruler. The ruler is not a person that inspires, it's a person that rules. Whereas later, when he appointed David, when he told him to appoint David, he told him Melech. Because David was supposed to be the higher type of king, which is to inspire, to advise, to teach. That was what he was supposed to do. Shaul's job was to be a nagid. And when eventually Shaul failed, which I'm giving you a little bit of a spoiler here, but we're going to get there. I'm assuming most people know that eventually David became king. So when Shaul failed and the Jewish people came to David and told him, we want you to become our king, they said to him, Nagid al Yisrael. They wanted him to be the Nagid. They were still looking for the Nagid. So they told him Nagid. But when God told Shmuel to appoint him, he told him Melech. So eventually, David, that would be later. But right now, Shaul is the king. So in the beginning, it went pretty well for Shaul. He fought against Nachash Ammoni, was the Ammonite king. I'm not going to get into very many details about this, but if you want the details, you could go to the website, rabbireiman.com, and you go to this episode, and attached to it is the full written form, and the written form has more details, so if you want it a little bit more elaborated, you can go there. But in the meantime, I'm just going to give it to you, the gist of it. So there was this king, Nachash, of Ammon, and he invaded, I forgot which city it was. He besieged the city, and he said that the only way that I'm going to lift the siege is that everybody in this city has to pluck out his right eye. So anyway, Shaul organized an army, and he attacked Nachash. He defeated him. After this defeat, he was very encouraged, and now he's going to go fight with Plishtim. Okay, Plishtim was much more dangerous, as we spoke. It was the militaristic, very strong country, but he will take them on. So there were two battles, but before the big battle that was supposed to come, Shmuel told Shaul, don't do anything, don't bring any sacrifices to Hashem, don't do anything until I come. Wait for me to give you instructions. I'm going to come to you with instructions, wait. He said, I'm going to come at this and this time. And the time came, and he wasn't there. And he waited, and people were getting agitated. So he said, okay, fine. So he started doing the sacrifices. And Shmuel came and said, you're supposed to completely respect prophecy. And if a prophet tells you not to do anything before you get the instructions, even though you're getting pressure from the people and the people are getting antsy and getting agitated, that is not acceptable. You have to be a strong king. You have to do what's right and not to be influenced by the people around you. And prophecy is the truth. And if God tells you, I'm sending you instructions, you do nothing before you get those instructions. Therefore, you lost your right to have a dynasty. It says, God would have let you be king forever. So some Mepharshim ask, how could it be forever? It had to be temporary, because what's with the Yosef Shevet Yehuda? What's with the king that comes from Yehuda? But the explanation, according to what we're saying, is clear. He could have been king forever. He could have had an indefinite dynasty which would rule the country and take care of all the political things and be a dynasty of political kings. And then you would bring in the other dynasty, which would be the dynasty of uniquely Jewish kings. But now you lost that. No dynasty. Still, you can be king. Okay, so now the next thing. Shaul told him to go attack Amalek. Amalek was the bitter blood enemy of the Jewish people for always. He said, go attack them, destroy Amalek, give no quarter, take no prisoners, destroy Amalek completely. So he went, and they attacked Amalek. Everybody was killed, but he wasn't allowed to even keep any livestock. But the people wanted a livestock. They were good animals, good, healthy, fat animals. So they wanted these animals, and he thought maybe they could use them for sacrifices. So they didn't kill the animals, and he allowed the king to survive. The king Agag, he allowed him to survive one night. The next day, Shmuel came, and he said, what have you done? What have you done? You allowed the king to survive. You allowed the livestock to survive. What have you done? So Shmuel immediately killed Agag. But during the night, Agag impregnated a slave girl, and even though he was killed, the seed of Amalek was not destroyed, and therefore Amalek was able to regenerate. But he told him that because of this, you yourself will lose your kingdom. I'm going to take it away from you. And he went, and he secretly, Shaul didn't know about this, but God told him to do it. He went to the house of Yishai, and there's this, you can look up the story of the brothers, this and that. But he went to the house of Yishai, and he anointed David that he should be the king. So now the second attempt to bring in the king in the best of circumstances also failed. So really, this is the history of the Jewish people. Peaks and valleys, successes and failures. And we talk more about our failures than we talk about our successes. But this was a second failure. The experiment of the kings to have a two-tier level of monarchy, well, that's monarchy, of lower level monarch and a higher level monarch, that also failed. So now they had to bring in the king of Yehuda, and they had to serve both roles. Had to take care of the government and also be the spiritual leaders. And for a while, history will show it worked until it didn't. Thank you very much. I'll see you next time. I'd like to invite you to visit me at rabbireiman.com and explore all my works, both completed and still in progress, and kindly take the opportunity to lend your support on the participant page. Thank you very much, and be well.